The problem that you have really from the beginning of time, but it seems more apparent today than ever, is that people try to rationalize the Torah. And that's a mistake. The reason why that's a mistake is because they're trying to rationalize God. If God was something you could understand, you would be God. If I could understand him, I am just like him. Therefore, I'm God. We're not supposed to understand God. We're supposed to understand what he wants. I could understand you because I'm also human. You could understand me because you're also human. We happen to speak the same language. Therefore, we can understand each other. Hashem does not have limitations like us. So, for a limited creation to understand the unlimited is impossible. So, the real reason behind every single rule in the Torah, all of them, without an exception, is not because it makes sense. It's because God said so. God said keep Shabbat, and that's the only reason you should keep Shabbat. Now, yes, there are benefits to keeping Shabbat. Yes, there are benefits to eating kosher. Yes, there are rational reasons for a lot of things. For example, nidah, tarat mishpacha, a husband and a wife being separated from each other for half the month. There are actual real benefits and logical reasons to do it, but that's not the reason why we do it. That's just an additive to it. That's just like a little bonus. The real reason of why we have all of the mitzvot in the Torah is because the King of Kings, the creator of all creations, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, said so. That's enough. If a person lives their life that way, they'll be very righteous. Why? Tamim tiyem Hashem. Be simple. He said it, I'm doing it. That's enough. If you really believe God said it, that's more than enough reasons. The problem we have when we try to rationalize things is that even though many of the mitzvot, almost all of them, have rational reasons for why we do them, if you're only going to do things because you rationalize and it makes sense to you, it's only a matter of time before it doesn't make sense to you. So for example, keeping Shabbat. You could rationalize keeping Shabbat. What's the rational reason? Everybody needs a break. Once a week you have a break. Further, everybody needs to spend a little bit of family time. Once a week you spend some family time. Further, everybody needs a little bit of a special meal once a week. You got a special meal once a week. Further, everybody needs a special time to pray to Hashem a little extra. There you go. And I can give you many, many reasons. Problem is this. One day, a person is going to reach a financial crisis. His wife is going to tell him, honey, rent's due in a week. We don't have the money. We don't have the money. Yeah, but I get my salary in 2 weeks from now. She goes, no, you don't understand. You need the money. You need the money. They're going to kick us out. Okay, but I don't have the money. She says, I have a job. I want to make the money, and I'll get it in a week. She goes, no, you need the money now. We need the money within a couple of days. We need the money. What is he going to do? He says, he rationalizes. He goes, well, listen. God says, keep Shabbat because I can take a break. Who can take a break under such conditions? I'm stressed out the whole time. Who can eat? I can barely afford to pay rent. I'm going to pay for food. Who can sleep? Who wants to spend time with the family? Everybody's stressed out. So what does he do? He says, God wanted me to keep Shabbat under these conditions. Since these conditions are no longer valid, so therefore I go work on Shabbat. Why? I'm helping God. I'm helping God by going to work on Shabbat. I'll make the money. So that way I can pay the rent. And then next week, I'll definitely honor Shabbat. You just rationalized violating Shabbat, which Hashem says you're not allowed. Point being is that if a person tries to rationalize the Torah, eventually he'll arrive at a point where he'll rationalize going against the Torah. So yes, there are benefits to every aspect of the mitzvot. Every one of them, with a few exceptions, that we don't know what the benefit is. We don't know how they work. For example, para aduma, the red cow. We don't know why the red cow that they slaughter and then they burn and then we use the ashes with special water and it purifies all the impure people. We don't know how that works because if it worked according to our rational mind, that means that if, let's say I'm the Kohen that takes the ashes and the water of the red cow and I'm purifying all of you, now you're no longer considered impure, that would mean that you're all pure and I'm also pure. But that's not the way it works. I'm purifying you, and by purifying you, at the same time, I'm becoming impure. That doesn't make any sense. Rationally, it doesn't make any sense. That's what Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest man of all time, says. This is bigger than me. Meaning, it's not just this mitzvah. The whole Torah is bigger than me. I tried rationalizing it where it makes sense. If I'm pure and you're pure, that makes sense. If you're impure and I'm impure, that makes sense. But you becoming pure by me becoming impure, that doesn't make any sense. Rationally, it doesn't make any sense. So, there are certain things in the Torah that make a lot of sense and have a lot of benefits, but there are things that don't make sense. For example, the mitzvah that you mentioned, shatnez. Hashem says you're not allowed to have wool and linen sewed together. But there is an exception. When? When it's for a mitzvah. What mitzvah? There are two exceptions. One is the clothing of the Kohen, which had shatnez. Two is tzitzit. Your tzitzit is shatnez. Those are the two exceptions. Why are the two exceptions? He says normally you're not allowed to have wool and linen together unless it's for a specific mitzvah that I said this is the exception. So as far as does it make sense rationally? Not really. Why would Hashem care whether you wear wool, linen, or not? But it does make sense that there are exceptions. Why? Because Hashem is telling you, I want you to use this, but only according to my instructions. I want you to be with your wife, but only according to my instructions. So you can be with your wife when she's pure, meaning when she's not menstruating. When she came out of the mikveh, you can be with her as much as you want. That's usually about half the month. Other than that, when she's menstruating, when she has the period, not allowed to even touch her finger. Now, rationally, you would say, well, this actually kind of makes sense. Why? Because if you look at the divorce rates in Western society, divorce rates today are over 80%. 80% of people are divorced, get divorced. Meaning that realistically, if people are secular, don't get married. You're wasting your money. There's an 80% chance you're going to fail within 5 years. If I told you, you know what? There's an 80% chance that every plane is going to crash. You're going to go take a flight to New York? You're going to take a flight to Colorado? You're going to take a flight to somewhere else? No, right? There's an 80% chance I'm going to crash. I'm not going. I'm not going. 80% chance of crashing? No. Well, in the secular world, there's an 80% chance of crashing within 5 years. Why bother? Why bother? Here's the thing. You know why planes don't crash 80% of the time? Because the pilot goes to school and he follows the instructions of how to fly a plane. And anytime he has a question, he calls the office and says, hey, listen, I'm over here, north this way, this degree, that degree. He tells him where he is. There are winds going this amount of miles per hour. I'm 35,000 feet above instead of 34. Am I okay? Am I not okay? He always checks back with where does he stand. He gets a second opinion. Even though he went to school for 2, 3, 4 years. Could be if it's a jumbo jet, could be 5 years. Point is, he has instructions. He follows the instructions, but he always double checks himself. People today, they don't double check themselves. They think that just because they're old enough to have sex, they're old enough to find a girl, they're old enough to find a guy, they should get married. That's the problem. That's the problem. And usually, the people they ask for advice are also divorced people. Also miserable couples. So they say, hey, Dad, listen, what do you think I should do with my wife? I had divorced her. No, I didn't even tell you the problem yet, Dad. Well, listen, I divorced your mom a few years ago. At one point or another, you're going to get divorced. Might as well divorce now if you already have a problem. People ask advice when people don't know what they're talking about. They ask their friends who are still single. They ask their colleagues who are divorced. They ask their family who can't stand their bride or can't stand their husband. They ask people that are biased instead of asking people that are actually experts. They go to marriage counselors that suggest for them to have marriages with other people at the same time. That's, by the way, the new strategy today. If you're unhappy with your wife or husband, why don't you have a second or third one on the side? That's what they suggest to people. They suggest to people, listen, you're not happy with her? I'll convince her, as the doctor or the psychiatrist, I'll convince her to allow you to have a girlfriend. As long as you have a rule. Well, what's the rule? She's going to have a boyfriend. Oh, you know what? I don't mind if she has a boyfriend and I have a girlfriend, but we're still married? No problem. That's what people advise today. That's the stupidity of today's psychiatrist and secular world. On the other hand, the successful marriages look at things differently. How do they look at things? First and foremost, I'm not going to ask anyone that's biased. If he doesn't like my wife, if she doesn't like my husband, and so on and so forth, they're already excluded. Number two, they have to have a history of success. I'm not asking divorced people for advice on marriage. Why? Obviously they failed. If they're failing, how are they going to tell me? It's like asking a homeless guy how to make $1 million. It's not going to work. If he knew it, he would do it himself. Third, I need to make sure that the advice is foolproof. How do you know it's foolproof? It's from God. Why? His system works. That's the instructions. You have instructions from God of how to be married, you're going to pass. As long as everybody follows the instructions. How do you know you follow the instructions? You double check back with the home office. Who's the home office? The rabbi. If he's a real rabbi, he's tell Rabbi, listen, I know we went to the class, we went to the shiur, and we listened to A, B, C, and everything that you said, but I don't remember everything. Or maybe I'm not really sure if what I remember is correct. Can you double check? I'm 35,000 feet in the air. Can you double check? She just yelled at me. Can you double check? He didn't come home tonight. Can you double check? What do I do under this circumstance? When a person double checks with the rabbi and he gets real advice, he's put in a situation where now he can succeed. Having a marriage lasts for his entire life. But that's somebody that wants to succeed. And not somebody that's just looking for a shortcut.